Hello everyone, this is teacher Susie and welcome to my class. In this video, we are going to discuss about division of radical expressions. So we are done with addition, subtraction, and multiplication of radical expressions. I hope that you learned from those videos. So now, how do we divide radical expressions? So when we divide radical expressions with the same index, so we will just apply the quotient rule for radicals. If you still remember, it states that if we have the nth root of a divided by the nth root of b, that is equal to the nth root of a over b, or a divided by b. So we will just put them together, the radicands, in the same or in one radical sign, and then we will just divide them. Let's have an example. Number 1, if we have the square root of 35 divided by the square root of 7, so following the quotient rule, so we can write this as the square root of 35 over 7. And this can be written, or this is equal to the square root of 35 divided by 7, which will give us 5. So the answer is the square root of 5. So that is how we do it. Another example. If we have the square root of 80 divided by the square root of 5, so following the quotient rule, we can write this as the square root of 80 divided by 5. And that will give us the square root of 80 divided by 5 is 16. Simplify, the square root of 16 is 4. So this is our final answer. Another example, number 3. If we have the square root of 6 over or divided by the square root of 10, so we can write this as the square root of 6 over 10. So wala tayong makukuha na whole number na quotient nito. So we can just simplify 6 over 10. So this is equal to the square root of 3 over 5, or 3/5. So if we have this as an answer, we can write this in this way. Paghiwalayin ang square root of 3 and square root of 5. So this can be written as the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 5. But remember guys, we cannot have a radical in our denominator. Hindi pwede. So if this is our answer, may radical tayo sa ating denominator, it means that this is not yet the final answer. We have to go through the process of rationalization. We need to rationalize the denominator. So how do we do rationalization? Okay, so in doing this, it means to say that we need to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by whatever is the denominator. Ang denominator natin dito is 5. So it means to say that we will multiply both numerator and denominator by the square root of 5. We will multiply the whole given with the denominator, and that is the square root of 5. So multiply. Apply the product rule. So we're gonna have here the square root of 3 times 5, that is 15, over the square root of 5 times the square root of 5, that is the square root of 25. So we can simplify it. So just copy the square root of 15, hindi na siya masisimplify, over the square root of 25, which is 5. And this is our final answer. Or, para hindi tayo dumaan sa process na ito, so just multiply this, the numerator, and then for the denominator, kukopyahin na lang natin yung ating radicand, which is 5. Okay? So that is our final answer. So again, we need to rationalize our answer if the denominator is in radical form. Alright? So let's have more examples. Example number 4. If we have the square root of Okay, ayusin natin. The square root of 60 x to the 5th power y to the 4th power divided by or all over the square root of 8x y to the 5th power. So following the quotient rule, so we can write this as the square root of, kopyahin natin, 60x to the 5th power y to the 4th power all over 8x y to the 5th power. So 60 over 8, if we will simplify this, this will be equal to the square root of 15 over 2. Okay, 15 over 2. Alright? And then cancel out x. And then x to the 5th, bawasan ng isa. We're gonna have here x to the 4th power. Nasa taas siya. And then cancel out y to the 4th kasi mas bababa siya. Bawasan ng 5 ng 4. We're gonna have only y raised to 1 or simply y. So, ito na ang kanyang, ito ng ating answer. So, if we're gonna write this in this form, so, we're gonna have here the square root of 15 y to the 4th power all over the square root of 2y. So again, if you can see the denominator is radical, we cannot accept this as our final answer, so we need to rationalize. And in doing that, we have to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2y. Alright? So, unahin natin yung nasa taas, product rule. So, that's equal to the square root of 15 times 2. That will give us 30. And then, this is, this is x to the 4th. This one. This is x to the 4th. X to the 4th times y. So, that's x to the 4th y. Copy it lang. All over, so as I said a while ago, if this is the case, you will just copy the radicand, which is 2y. Okay? And then, before we decide for our final answer, we need to check if this is final na ba or this is already simplified. But as you can see, there's still something we need to simplify here. So, 30 is, wala na tayong may isip na factors niya where 1 is a perfect square. So, dyan na siya. But x to the 4th can be simplified pa. Okay? So, x to the 4th exponent is 4 divided by the index, which is 2. 4 divided by 2, so that's 2. It means to say may lalabas na dalawang x or x squared. So, wala na to. And then, there's nothing to be simplified pa. So, just copy the square root of 30y all over 2y. So, tignan natin doon sa mga terms na nasa labas. May masisimplify pa ba? X squared at saka 2y. So, wala na. Means to say that this is our final answer. Alright? So, let's have more example. Let's say example number 5. We have 1 over 1 plus the square root of 2. So, if you notice, the denominator is a binomial that carries a radical. So, how can we solve this? Sabi nga natin kanina, hindi tayo pwedeng magkaroon ng radical on the denominator. So, how can we do this? So, kung naaalala natin dito, or here on our answer, kailangan natin i-multiply yung whole equation with whatever is the denominator. So, the same lang din. Meron tayong i-multiply, both numerator and denominator. Okay? So, the same with the denominator. But, the only difference is the operation. So, opposite of addition, that is subtraction. So, instead of having addition, so, multiplication na magiging operation. Okay? Ng mga i-multiply natin. So, we will copy it, the whole denominator. Okay? Maliban lamang sa operation, papalitan natin yan ng opposite, which is subtraction. So, times 1 minus the square root of 2, both numerator and denominator. And that is what we call, this 2 is what we call conjugate conjugate pair. Okay, conjugate pair is pareho ang first term and the second term, 1 tsaka square root of 2. The only difference is opposite ang kanilang operation. If this is addition, then ang operation ng conjugate niya is subtraction. If this is subtraction, if minus ito, of course, ang conjugate niya is addition. So that's it, conjugate pair. Multiply. So 1 times 1 minus the square root of 2. So identity, whatever we multiply to 1 is just the same with the number. So we're gonna have 1 minus the square root of 2 all over. So if you see, this is sum and difference of two binomials. Okay? So if naaalala sa special product and special product, we will just need to square the first term and the second term. And the operation between them is always subtraction. So square of the first term, square ng 1. Sige, sulat natin. That's 1 squared. And then, ang sabi nga kanina, it's always minus. Square of the second term, we can write this as the square root of 2 squared. So, simplify pa natin yung denominator. So, sa taas, wala na tayong mababago. 1 minus the square root of 2 all over. So, 1 squared is 1 minus. So, the square root of 2 squared, just cancel out the radical sign and the exponent. So, 2. Okay, simplify the denominator. So, this is equal to 1 minus the square root of 2 all over 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So, denominator is negative 1. Iangat natin, akyat natin ang negative sign. It means to say, lahat ng mga sign ng nasa taas ay magbabago. So, this will become positive 1, will become negative 1. Then, this negative square root of 2 will become positive square root of 2 all over 1. Or hindi na natin isusulat ang 1. So, this is our final answer. So, I hope that you learned from this video. See you again on my next class. Goodbye.